Hello and welcome to the Old Man Orange Podcast. I'm Spencer Scott Holmes, bringing you another Old Man Orange Presents Via VHS episode. One of them from the rarities vault that we have from back in the day that just never got put out. So come join us for another fun-filled retro movie review. Let's jump on in.
So welcome to another episode of the Via VHS Retro Movie Podcast. And damn, I'm excited for this one. This is one of those movies that we have talked about doing for so long. And we're like, well, let's save it. We just couldn't save it anymore. And we're going to watch what we're going to talk about. We already watched Young Guns. Now we're going to talk about it. It's time to mount up. I'm here with my pal, Spencer Scott Holmes. How you doing?
I'm doing good, and I got my VHS copy ready to rock and roll.
Look at us,
Young Guns. You know, oh, we got the same one too. 1989 represent.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you know, it's funny.
And I also got my DVD copy too, just to top it off. Special edition one, because that's what I kind of ended up watching on was DVD.
I think I have a DVD copy. I actually bought it digitally a couple years ago when the 4K came out. And,
yeah, that's the way to have it, because I'm not going to lie, that DVD one's a little bit not the greatest picture quality anymore.
Yeah, I watched Tombstone not that long ago on DVD. I'm like, whoa, this is... Whoa.
Oh, God, and that Tombstone one, if it's the Hollywood Video version or whatever, or not Hollywood Video, Hollywood Pictures one, like, it's a really crappy DVD. It's like, you know, once you're past like a 22-inch CRT TV, that thing cannot handle anything beyond that.
Yeah, I remember it being pretty terrible. I didn't pay attention to who made it or what it was, but did watch Young Guns, and one of my favorite 80s movies.
Yep.
One of the best.
So good.
And, you know, if you're here to watch Young Guns, you can't be any geek off the street. Okay, you'll be handy with the steel, if you know what I mean. My favorite thing about this movie is that it's in the Regulate song of Warren G, which is the most random shit ever. People were talking about that song at work. I'm like, you know, that's from Young Guns, right? Like, I always wondered what that was from. I'm like, yeah, Young Guns. But yeah, this is one I've been wanting to talk about, and we're gonna do we're gonna go back to back here. We're definitely gonna do Young Guns 2 next week. So if you're one of those people who likes the sequel more, don't worry, we've got you covered. And it'd been a while since I watched this, so I was excited to watch it again.
Yeah, same here too, because I thought about it, I'm like, this is one that we actually did on Old Man Orange Podcast probably 6+ years ago by now. It didn't seem like it's that long ago, but I kind of looked it up earlier today. It's like, oh yeah, that was a while ago when we did Young Guns 1 and 2 back to back in one episode back then, and that probably was the last time I watched it, but I really love these movies, and I especially love Young Guns 2. I'm like one of those ones, like, Young Guns 1 I think is really good, but then 2 is that movie that it just doesn't seem like it should be that good, and then it's like, oh, they just really have a hidden gem that you know, Warner Brothers just sort of threw out there kind of later on or whatnot, and, you know, of course it's got Blaze of Glory and all that stuff, but we'll get to that one when we do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's going to take a lot of discipline to hold some things back. But that said, though, I haven't watched Young Guns 2 in a really long time. I just remember absolutely falling in love with it. And I'll be interested to see if I think at the time I watched it, I kind of liked 2 more. So I'll be interested to see if my feelings on that have changed. But yeah, Young Guns, MTV meets the Wild West. You got the Brat Pack. You know, you got the youngins in there. It's a rock and roll Western. You know, the 80s weren't good for Westerns. So this is definitely one of the exceptions.
Yeah, you know what I really think this one is, too, is it's the comeback movie, especially for the Westerns in the 80s, sort of the same way that the Sundance Kid kind of was in the late 60s. Because that movie was sort of made for, in a sense, the hippie generation. Like, here you go, here's your Western. It's not, you know, your old man's John Wayne Western. No. You got something new. You got something hip. You got some young fellas in here and so on like that. We're going to put a Burt Bacharach soundtrack in there. And I kind of feel that's sort of what Young Guns is doing like 20 years later, is they're doing that. But it's like, hey, this is 80s-ified now. You know what I mean? Once again, this ain't your dad's or your grandpappy's Western. No. This one's hip. It's sexy. It's got all sorts of gunplay going on. You're going to have a good time. I mean, even look at those intro credits. That looks like it's straight out of MTV.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, there's a lot of montages in here. It's definitely following that Rocky IV kind of pattern.
A lot of slow motion.
A lot of slow motion. It's stylized. It's fun. It's kind of like it's Top Gun but westerns. It's it's definitely meant to for a more contemporary audience. And even though the westerns in the 90s were very different, the Unforgiven, and then you have all the neo westerns that come later in the 90s and early 2000s, and this maybe kind of kicked the door back open for westerns a little bit. So I'm gonna give Young Gun some credit on that one.
Yeah, it probably opened the door for all those Kevin Costner westerns and so on.
Yeah, Kevin Costner.
You probably don't get Dances with Wolves without Young Guns.
I mean, that might be kind of true because it's only a couple years later. I mean, it's they're very different films, very, very different. The other one's more of an epic. This with Wolves got that classic epic western feel, but yeah, this is more fun. This is more contemporary. It's more light and really fun cast. Just one of my favorite 80s movies overall. But before we get too much into what we think about this film, let's go ahead and jump into the tail of the tape. So going back to August 12th of 1988 when this movie was released, Young Guns, directed by Christopher Kane, written by John Fusco. Is it Fusco? You think?
That is a good question. Fusco?
We'll go with Fusco. Cast starring Emilio Estevez as Billy the Kid, Kiefer Sutherland as Doc Scurlock, Lou Diamond Phillips as Chavez E. Chavez, Charlie Sheen as Dick Brewer, Dermot Mulroney
that's
as
a great
Dirty,
name.
Yeah, it really is. Dermot Mulroney as Dirty Steve Stevens. It would have been even better if it was Dirty Dick Brewer. And if
Dirty Dick Brewer is that is like the Boogie Nights name.
Yeah, and Dirty Steve Stevens. Yeah, and Charlie's Samasco. I never say his name correctly. It's Charlie Bowdry and Jack Palance.
Yeah, good old Jack Palance.
Lawrence Murphy. Talk about screen presence. That guy has it.
He does. He's just charisma like nobody's business. And it's funny because like towards this era, this is where he's playing all either like the bad guys or the anti-hero type ones. Because I also think of even he plays Curly in City Slickers, and it's like you really like he really steals the scenes when he's in there.
Yeah, he Batman 89 too, right?
Yep. Yeah, he's in that as well.
Yeah. It's been a while since I've seen that one too. The box office for Young Guns. So again, August 12th, 1988. So Young Guns is number one at the box. This is a funny box office, by the way. Young Guns, number one at the box office with $11 million. This is opening week. Number two, a movie that we've talked about before. We probably need to revisit again. Cocktail.
Oh yeah, Cocktail. Such an interesting movie, I will have to say there.
Yeah, both of them, because it's two movies. The first half is one thing, and the second half is like, whoa, this is like very dramatic. Fuck.
But a great soundtrack. At the end of the day, that's the takeaway of Cocktail. Oh.
There's a lot of takeaways. Cocktail's fun. It really, really is.
Yeah, it is interesting. That's the thing.
Yeah, I liked it. Die Hard. Number three at the box office.
The big old Die Hard coming in.
Giant 80s movie. Number four, A Fish Called Wanda. Number five, Who Framed Roger Rabbit. This is on its 8th week. Coming to America on its 8th week as well.
That's a good list of movies right there.
A movie I've never seen. I've always been kind of interested to see it. Tucker, The Man in His Dream.
Okay, I've heard of that. Never seen it either. I
think it's, I want to say it's Jeff Bridges. But yeah, Clean and Sober at 8. Midnight Run, another movie I've been wanting to review. Big, and a movie that's begging for us to talk about it. It is begging for us. Mac and Me.
Oh yeah, I've never seen that, but I've always looked at that one before.
Yeah. So Mac and Me. So yeah. So and then way down on 14th, you have another movie we talked about before, Bull Durham. So.
Oh yeah, yeah.
I mean, this is a pretty solid box office hit, like at 56 million on 11 million bucks. Mm-hmm. Which I was actually surprised that the budget was so low, honestly.
Yeah, just actor wise, you just think that this would be kind of cranked up because a lot of these, especially Emilio, he's just like, he's got movie after movie after movie right at this point.
Yeah, this is, of course, the Brat Pack, they're all big deals at this point in time. They're tabloid fodder, they're teen beat fodder. Everybody thinks they're cool, So you have a really interesting cast, and a lot of these people, most of which didn't really do that much outside of the 90s. They're the exceptions being probably Charlie Sheen and Kiefer Sutherland. Emilio's been kind of disappeared for a while, honestly.
Yeah, because that's the weird one, is because at this time period, Emilio is like the huge actor of them all. But in like the longest run, Kiefer and Charlie Sheen definitely become the much bigger actors. And so, and I'll say Charlie was, I guess, always kind of big. He probably dipped in the 90s and then came back up once he did 2.5 Men and everything like that. As far as you want to say that, there was a period where he was one of the most highly paid actors.
Yeah, and the moral compass for this movie. So there's that.
Yeah, exactly. Which you didn't expect. That's the funny thing about it, is like, when you watch sometimes certain older Charlie Sheen movies, just like how different it is from Charlie Sheen from the 2000s on up. Even Charlie Sheen in the 90s, because in the 90s that's where because he goes from being the 80s, he's always like kind of like the serious character, like Red Dawn. You got him in. Well, there's even like Navy SEALs. There's this one here, but then it's like he gets to the 90s, and that's when he starts doing like not even just like comedy, but like slapstick comedy type stuff. Of Hot Shots, and then he does. There's a couple of those ones in there. There's one where The Chase, I think he's in. It was kind of like a half comedy, so it's got a bunch of good cameos in that one too, with like Anthony Kiedis and Henry Rollins and all that stuff. But
well, Major League kind of started his.
Yeah, Major League, I guess. There's the other comedy. So he's got a lot of change and stuff going on. Yeah,
it's just when you have a group of people. And Charlie Sheen is the moral compass. That pretty much means your license for debauchery is murder, which is good for Young Guns. So
yeah, exactly.
So yeah, that's your so the box office, pretty good hit, which obviously warranted a second one. I think it did pretty well on VHS too. The synopsis: a group of young outlaws led by the reckless Billy the Kid seek vengeance for their murdered benefactor in the lawless New Mexico territory, becoming the infamous Regulators.
The Regulators.
Mount up.
What's funny is the first time I watched this movie, I didn't know it was a Billy the Kid movie until I got about a quarter of the way into it. It's like, oh, that's what this is. You know? I just was like, Young Guns, cool, because it really doesn't advertise as a Billy the Kid one. Maybe it does if you're watching the trailer or something like that. But if you're just literally looking at like the cover or anything like that, you're just like, cool, it's a youthful Western looking. That's all, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I like that about this movie because it's more focused on the group.
Yeah.
And, like Emilio's the main star and Billy the Kid is the main focus. But it's really about the whole group, their dynamic, the camaraderie, the team. And, Billy the Kid is... I like how they handle him in here because he's kind of a dick. But yeah, so that's your tale of the tape for Young Guns, and going into the review. Did you watch this one? You watched this one a lot growing up.
I watched it a bit. I felt like I kind of came to it a little bit later, though. Like, I didn't see it I don't feel like I saw it really in the 90s, but it was like the early 2000s that I kind of came around to this one. And almost like when it came to the point of collecting DVDs, because I want to say literally this version right here is whenever this kind of came out, I was like, I know I've heard a lot about this Young Guns. I better pick this up. And ever since then, I've kind of watched a bit. But it doesn't go as far back as you would think.
I see. This is one of the rare movies that my dad showed me. Because he used to quote it, and I didn't know what he was quoting. So we would be in different places, and he'd see like a dog or something. You see the size of that chicken? And I'm like, what is he talking about? And then he would sometimes he'd take a dip. He always had Copenhagen or something. And he would like put that in his mouth. He'd go, "We're in the spirit world, asshole." He would like quote. I'm like, what is he
would he say about? It like in slow motion too?
How did they? That was a pretty cool voice effect they did for that, actually.
Well, it's just like it just reminded me someone discovered like, oh, dude, if you slow down like the editing here, like you get this effect. It's literally like just reminds me of like a bunch of teenagers who just discovered like, oh, you can manipulate the like the voices this way. Yeah. Let's do that.
Yeah, so it's like some guy with a talk boy in there. It's we're talking about the peyote scene, obviously. We'll get to it in a moment, but yeah, when they're high shit. So yeah, he used to like quote this movie, and you know, Uncle Jody didn't show me this one. Eventually, I was on TV one day, and he's like, "Oh, you got to watch this. You'll really, really like it." And I sat down and watched it, and I was like, "Oh, that's where that's from." When I got to the like that scene, I'm like, "Oh, that's what you've been talking about this whole time." I had no idea what it was from, but yeah. This is a rare one he showed me, and I watched it a couple times, and then it disappeared. And then I think on TV somewhere, TNT, TBS, USA, one of those channels had Young Guns 2 on. Mm-hmm. And I don't even think I knew there was a sequel. And I was like, oh, I gotta watch this. And of course, by the opening scene, I'm like hooked, and kind of started my obsession with Billy the Kid. But yeah, I can't say I was obsessed with this one growing up, but I think I like it more now than I did then.
Yeah, I definitely agree, because I think it's one of those ones where both Young Guns 1 and 2, I kind of hold in a pretty high regard. You know, I think they're definitely up there as far as Western movies go. You know, maybe not, you know, pinnacle level. That'd probably be kind of reserved for something like a Clint Eastwood one, but pretty darn close, though.
Well, you kind of hold it to a different standard, because it's like, you know, a Western, like when you really look at what a Western is, they have their certain characteristics. Like they're not all the same, but they have, you know, certain formulaic elements. And this is just kind of like a action movie take on a Western. You know, we did Don Simpson, Jerry Bruckheimer a couple of weeks. It feels like it was something they would have done. You know, with the guitar solos in there. And also kind of remind me of Knight's Tale a little bit.
Yeah, it's got a little bit of that vibe as well, too.
Yeah, because it's like unconventional, like historical look, but you're looking at it like a real. But this is different because you're looking at a real scenario, and they kind of like make lighthearted, like a lighthearted nature of it. But, yeah. So, Emilio Estevez is Billy the Kid, main star of this, and like they don't drive it home too much. Right? It's not like till the middle of the movie they actually call him Billy the Kid, you know, and where you really. It's not even that. It's not really up until that scene where he's in the bar. Yeah. And he's like teasing that guy you really know. But I love his version of Billy the Kid. Emilio Estevez is charismatic, and he's energetic, and he's fun. But they've got the obnoxiousness turned up just a little too high, I think.
Well, he does kind of chew some scenery and then really goes to town on that laugh and everything, which I know that they say that kind of comes actually from, you know, tellings of the Billy the Kid story, you know. But yeah, Emilio Estevez is kind of going a little bit his character almost seems so much different than the rest of them. Let's just say that. Like he's almost from a different movie, just popped in.
Yeah, it almost does take you out of it a little bit, because not that you're like you get lost in the world, because it's almost like a different universe's version of the actual events, even though this is surprisingly historically accurate for the most part. Like they take their liberties, but you know, somebody said it was the most accurate Billy the Kid. So
yeah, I remember that like the last time I watched it is I kind of saw a fact that was like, this was the most accurate Billy the Kid movie up to this point, you know, which is weird because it's like I always thought about like that Pat Garrett and Billy the Kid movie that what's his name did, Sam Peckinpah in the 70s and so on like that. But apparently, yeah, the Young Guns one, and it's kind of like there's a cool little documentary that comes on this DVD set, and I watched it again, and it's weird because it's like one of those ones where it's like it has nothing to do with Young Guns. It's just literally a Billy the Kid documentary, but it's like kind of neat for like a half an hour. And when it goes through his whole life, you know, it hits generally the same beats. It's like, you know, of course it's a movie, so of course they're going to combine some things together a little bit here and make the, you know, the story kind of weave together. But for the most part, that whole Lincoln County story that Young Guns is all about is close to being pretty darn accurate.
Yeah, I mean, that's what I was reading too. And this is like the Lincoln County War, Billy the Kid, go read about it, actual thing that happened. historical thing. And we'll probably talk more about Billy the Kid, like the historical element in the second one, because it becomes more relevant in the second one in a lot of ways. But I like his Billy the Kid overall. It is a little obnoxious, it's a little bit over the top. It is a little bit like I watched that House of Gucci movie, and Jared Leto is just playing a whole different character than the rest of it. Like they're all trying to have like kind of grounded Italian accents, and he's over here sounding like Super Mario. And it's so bad, but it's not that level. But Emilio is definitely chewing the scenery in this. Kiefer Sutherland's Doc Scurlock. He's a poet. He's kind of the resistant intellectual kind of the group, and he's obsessed with this little Asian girl.
Yeah, well, it's the one where he's kind of the soft-spoken one all of a sudden, but then if he doesn't really get his way, though, he will flip on a dime. Because there's that part where he's trying to, give flowers to that poor little Asian girl, and she's like, no, I can't take it. He's like, what do you mean you can't take it? He just starts yelling in the street. He's like, come on, you're literally a slave to this man. What's wrong with you? Yeah. I'm sorry. Let me pump the brakes on that real quick. I know everybody in town's turning and looking right now.
Yeah, definitely, absolute textbook definition of a borderline personality disorder, where he's talking to the lady and he's like, oh, yeah, I love you, and blah, blah, blah. And here's these flowers, and he's reciting poetry that he wrote. And she's like, get away. You're going to get me killed and all that stuff. And he's like, stop. And then he also flips out on Billy when he's in the hot spring or whatever.
Yeah.
He does kind of flip out.
He's very soft in the movie, and then all of a sudden he'll just rage for a second.
Yeah, and he's very determined. He's a very determined character. He's going to do what he wants when he wants to do it, even if she says no. So none of that happens. But so we have Lou Diamond Phillips.
Yeah,
I love Lou Diamond Phillips.
No, he's great in this one. Chavez.
Yeah, I think he maybe has the best performance overall.
I think so. And he really carries quite a bit of the scenes himself, too, quite well as one of the serious characters of the movie.
Yeah, Lou Diamond Phillips, Chavez. He... kind of like we'll call him the native character, and he's got the more of a backstory that's more fleshed out, because you really don't know. You meet Billy at the first of it, but you don't really, other than some little hints you don't really know where he came from. Kiefer Sutherland, you don't really ever find out how he ended up there that much, but he's got definitely the most backstory out of all of them. Yeah.
No, I think he's got a lot going on there, and especially for the fact that, he has that one scene where he really breaks down and be like, yo, these guys totally came in, killed all my family members, destroyed the whole town and everything like that. He's like, and I had to leave or whatnot. And he breaks it down in a good, monologue where he really goes to town on that, just to explain to everybody that, why he does what he does.
And, of course, he gets everybody into the spirit world with some peyote.
Yeah.
Which is the best scene in the movie. It lasts a little too long, but man, Kiefer Sutherland just read the talking voice, just the voice, the whole way they did that, every character, the way they handled it. That must have been a fun day of shooting.
It's like that scene in The Breakfast Club where they all smoke weed or whatever, and then do the dance that doesn't appear on the TV version.
Yeah. It's actually kind of like The Breakfast Club, but a Western.
It pretty much is, with some more violence and shooting.
Yeah.
I don't know why I said more violence, like there's some violence in The Breakfast Club.
Yeah.
At some point, they end up killing their principal, but...
So that would have been a good sequel. And then, the whole time they're trying to figure out what to do, hide the body, and that would have been a good sequel. But yeah, Lou Diamond Phillips is really, really good in here. Charlie Sheen, so spoilers, you don't see him through the whole movie.
Yeah.
And again, having him as the moral compass is just hilarious. He's a straight guy. He's the, everybody buckle down, everybody listen. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he's literally, because like, you know, the movie starts off and they're literally almost like in like a stand and deliver type school where there's this British dude trying to reform everybody, and Charlie Sheen's like almost like the teacher's pet, really coming in to be like, hey guys, listen up, you know, we got to do what's right, and it's just, you know, it's Charlie Sheen telling you to do what's right.
Yeah, it's really weird, and he's the least likable one while he's there because he's just, you know.
He's always being a dick.
He's Leonardo from Ninja Turtles. He's just like trying to keep everybody in line, and sometimes he's wrong, and they're right.
Yeah, fearless leader.
Yeah, he's really, really good in it, though. But yeah, so, and of course you have. Hold on one second. What's his name?
There's the other two dudes that I always kind of forget their names off the top of my head. There's Dermot
Mulroney,
who's Dirty Steve Stevens.
Dirty Steve Stevens, and he literally is filthy the entire movie, and it bothered me.
Yeah, and he's just always got a big old chew in one side and stuff, and he's always making racial comments and so on like that, and just trying to like aggravate everybody. And it's weird because it's like, okay, Young Guns is filmed kind of like, it's like, hey, they're slick, they're sexy and everything like that. But then there's two dudes, like, yeah, four of the guys are kind of sexy. Then there's two guys, old Dirty Steve, and then Charlie, not to be confused with Charlie Sheen, are kind of the goober guys of the bunch. Where like, I'm like, it's a weird choice. Maybe they wanted to balance it a little bit, but you know, it's not like you have six, you know, young buns up there on the screen. You got four young buns, and then you got two, you know, kind of more gruff and tumble guys. Even though one guy's almost like so soft that he's kind of got, you know, issues.
Yeah, he does have issues, and he's always dirty. His teeth are disgusting. And he is always saying really horrible racial comments. And he kind of just does what he falls in love with Billy the Kid, clearly, because you always notice in the movie, it's kind of subtle, but he's always doing exactly what Billy does, following exactly where he's going to go. And it was funny is Charlie Zemeckis, I can't say his name correctly, but he reminds me of Charlie Day, who's like from like...
yeah, It's Always Sunny.
Yeah, he reminds me of him a little bit, which I thought was pretty funny. But yeah, those two, I mean, honestly, and Charlie's character, what's his name again?
Charlie Boder or whatever. He's kind of the heart of the movie, I guess you would almost sort of say in a weird way, because he's the guy who's definitely way more emotional, way more empathetic. He literally has a scene, this is farther on, where they're like down in Mexico and they're like, let's go to like a whorehouse and rage it up. You know what I mean? And then he literally goes and gets this older like lady and be like, can you just hold me? She's like, it's the same price, I don't care, and stuff, and puts a fucking cigarette out and everything like that. And he's like, that's fine, you know. Yeah.
Can we cuddle? Yeah, he's definitely the you know, you would think Kiefer Sutherland's character is really kind of the pacifist, but he's passionate about things that of course, like I said, he has mental issues, so he enjoys the killing every once in a while. But this guy's just not like, he's like, I don't want to do any of this. He just wants to kind of go hug a prostitute and, you know, marry this Mexican lady he just met.
Yeah, literally like 30 minutes ago.
Terrence Stamp, John Tunstall. Just
yes.
Anytime he is in anything, I like it. He's got such a cool like presence.
Yeah, no, he does a really good job.
And so directed by Christopher Kane. He doesn't have a huge filmography. You have Pure Country, the next Karate Kid, and does he direct a sequel to this?
No, that's somebody else.
Yeah, I mean, we'll talk about that more next week. But you know, not a huge filmography here I am. And James Horner, I read he was supposed to do the score for this, which would have been, you know, a couple weeks in a row.
Yeah, we would have James Horner on all kinds of stuff.
Yeah, it just didn't work out. But
well, Christopher Kane does have one major movie that we've talked about many a times before and have yet to do a podcast on, but it's something that's special to us. He directed Gone Fishing with Danny Glover and Joe Pesci.
Which is just this weird thing in that everybody who I have talked movies with a lot have a weird soft spot for this movie. My buddy Alex and we both watched it together. And you and I have talked about this movie. It's such a weird movie to like, but we all love it. It was J.J. Abrams' first movie. Like he wrote it. But yeah, Gone Fishing. Joe Pesci, Danny Glover. I think it has like a ridiculously low tomato score, but I love it anyway.
It's so much fun. Well, it's like that one too. It's like, because there's a lot of people I know too that like growing up, it's like we'd pass along Gone Fishing and watch it together and everything like that. But man, that's a great fun movie, and it's what it really defines. It's just a fun movie. It's like if you like almost like the comedy antics of Danny Glover and Joe Pesci in Lethal Weapon, and you take the cop part out of it, and you just say, hey, these two guys are going on a fishing trip that's not going to go right, but they're going to try to get there come hell or high water. You know, that's what you get, and it's great.
And it has a 4% on Rotten Tomatoes.
That's yeah. It's one of the movies. Yeah, I can't imagine critics or anything like that. Probably, you have to go fishing to understand first and foremost.
Yeah, I think so too. But no, it's a fun movie, and Christopher Kane does this one really well. But Young Guns holds up. Young Guns, it's very much of its time. It's very 80s, so it can come across cheesy if you don't watch 80s movies all the time like we do. But this is just I think it has a 47% on Rotten Tomatoes. That's too low.
Yeah. That's why I never trust anything Rotten Tomatoes says. It's just, to me, it's just the negative Nancy side of movie reviews.
Yeah, it really. I mean, it is an aggregate, so people are just giving their impressions of it, but it's definitely not good critic fodder. And I think people were tired of westerns for a while. We'd already talked about, this kind of brings it back, but I think people were just kind of hated it in the 80s. So it's kind of like a bold decision to even do this movie.
Well, that's kind of, sadly, that's almost how westerns have sort of been for like the last 40 years. Is there'll be like little blips here and there, but for the most part, they're such a niche audience, choice anymore. Even like when movies come out in the cinemas nowadays and there's a western, I always feel like you have to go out of your way to go see it, because you might only get one or two of these a year, and you should be damn grateful for what you get.
Yeah, and there's been a lot of good ones, and a lot of neo-westerns that are really good. Hell or High Water, things like that.
That's a great one, yeah.
No, Hell or High Water is so fucking good.
So good.
Yeah, probably one of my favorite movies of the past, we'll say of the millennium.
Yeah.
It probably is my top 10. But, yeah, you don't get a lot of movies, but you don't get a lot of westerns like this. I was racking my brain trying to think of, other kind of like rock and roll westerns. And there's not a whole lot.
No, not really. Like, that's the thing. And what was kind of a smart one, too, is like the fact that if you kind of take that hair metal 80s glam music, is there towards the late 80s, there was a lot of Western inspired design. I mean, just look at like Guns N' Roses or anything like that. Like, it was kind of a mixed match of like, hey, here's these guys, and they're taking on almost these cowboy like styles. Of course, Bon Jovi makes sense for why he Blaze of Glory and all that stuff comes in Young Guns 2. But by Young Guns 1, it's like they're still taking that and going like, hey, we can meld these two together.
Yeah, when you had to kind of do something to kind of sell it to an audience, and there's a lot of fodder here for this one, because the Lincoln County War, and you have the legend, the myth of Billy the Kid, and all that goes with it, and people kind of interested in his life or how it ended or didn't end, which we'll talk about more in the second one.
Yeah.
Yeah, this is just, it's a unique one. I really can't think of any other ones, any other, westerns like this. The only thing I can say negative about it is it's just the aesthetic of the marketing material is terrible.
Yeah, it's just like this picture of a group. They're just literally selling on the group, because even like the DVD cover is like, I mean, it's a little bit better because it's like, it's got this kind of cool, like almost makes it look like it's wooden design, got some bullet holes in there and whatnot.
Yeah, I just hate the red. Like, it looks like Die Hard, but it's
yeah.
But hold on one second, I'll show you. The flip side to that is part 2.
Oh,
has one of the best looking like covers, everything ever.
Yeah, and that's identical to what the DVD one is, except for the DVD version of Young Guns 2 is just like one of those cheap flippy fold. I'll show you that. I'll have to pull that one out when we do it, but it's like one of those Warner Brothers where it has a little snap-off plastic part, no special features, probably single-layer DVD. I'll probably, when I go to watch it on the TV, it's going to look like junk, but we'll find out. You know, we'll see how much effort Warner Brothers put into that one.
Yeah, I don't know if they've released a 4K to Young Guns 2 yet. I want to check that out because if so, I might buy it actually.
I might do the same thing too because, as I said, when I was watching Young Guns 1 on the DVD one, it was definitely not the right choice on there. It was like, okay, it's weird. It's not like it's not overloaded with a bunch of special features because that's mostly always the problem why certain DVDs won't have that great a quality. It's just because they try to jam everything on the one disc, and that mostly it's like when they did the 007 sets initially. It's like they had a bunch of cool special features, but then when you try to watch them on a large screen TV, you're like, ooh, the quality's just not there the same way.
Yeah.
But,
no, they do have it on Steelbook, it looks like here, but it looks like it's in a different region.
Yeah, that happens all the time, too. I noticed.
Yeah, and it's like $28 to buy it right now.
Yeah,
but,
well.
Yeah, I'll still find a way to buy it.
Yeah. But going back into Young Guns and all that kind of stuff, I guess we can kind of do a quick little summary of how that story gets to where we're at. But you get pretty much John Tunstall. He kind of comes to Lincoln County and whatnot, and he's like, you know what? I'm going to set up, and I can't remember if it says this in the movie, but this is what happens in real life. He's like, pretty much there's the Murphy gang that runs this entire county, and it's almost, this is the way I described it earlier in the previous podcast, but I thought it was a good way to say it. It's almost like the Murphy gang pretty much had like this Walmart, and they literally owned the entire town, and that's where everybody had to go shopping and so on like that. And then John Tunstall comes by and says, oh, I'm going to set up this cool little mom and pop grocery store here, you know, where people can come get some alternative stuff. No way was the Murphys gang going to have that, so they're going to do whatever they can to get John Tunstall out of there. And literally, by doing whatever they can, they're just going to end up killing him, you know?
Yeah.
And John Tunstall, before he gets killed, he's brought in all these kind of hoodlums and bandits and young guys and all that stuff. They're young guns, and he's sort of educating them, teaching them how to, you know, read and write and give them philosophy and all this stuff. And that's where it sort of has this stand and deliver kind of vibe when this movie first starts off. Stand, deliver, but then they have guns, you know?
Yeah.
So this classroom thing doesn't last forever because John Tunstall gets taken out and kind of brutally, you know, and they literally shoot his horse. They do all kinds of stuff to him because they're like, he liked that horse, kill that horse, all that kind of stuff. And this is what sort of creates the Regulator gang and pretty much sets them forward to being like, they're going out for not really necessarily just revenge, but they're literally avenging, in a sense, their master. Like it's almost like a kung fu movie.
Yeah, I think one thing they don't drive home enough is that, like, they have to end this regime. You know what I mean? They have to.
Yeah.
It kind of reminded me of, like, a very extreme version of, like, if you've seen It's a Wonderful Life, and there's the Potter.
Yeah,
and
Potter.
He has, like, a stranglehold in town, and yeah, Potter. You know, so they have him kind of just. He becomes the only option for people in need. He kind of has people under his thumb, the whole town under his thumb, and he doesn't really take care of people very well. He doesn't, you know, he manipulates people, and by not only just avenging his, you know, Tunstall's death, but they also need to just, you know, tear down this regime that's kind of got everybody, you know, oppressed. But
yeah.
You know, there's also that whole, do we just go ahead and run because, you know, Tunstall's dead, you know, what do we have here anymore? And so there's just always this kind of like, you know, we're on the run, should we just go away forever? And then that decision, like, are we going to fix this, or are we just going to, you know, bounce out of here? Which I would have bounced, I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, but, you know, Billy the Kid likes, you know, putting the difficulty up to, you know, extreme and taking on the challenge.
Yeah, he definitely, that's one thing about this movie is that, you know, they get deputized, so they get legal right to go out and, avenge this death. And by some really cool side characters that they have. And like Billy the Kid basically ruins it immediately.
Like right the very first bounty.
Yeah, like the very first one, they're like, Billy, you want to go there, check that out? Like, bad decision. And he kills the first bounty that they have, like the first, guy that they got to bring in, the first warrant. And yeah, he just kills, it makes it worse. And then there's a shootout and some Murphy men die. And then,
well, the part that makes it hilarious about that is they're like, okay, Billy, you go in there and find him, and we'll wait for you to give us the signal and everything like that, And then he follows the dude in to the outhouse and whatnot, and then he just says like whatever the dude's name is, like, hey, are you this guy? He's like, yeah, that's me. As he's farting and singing along and whatnot, and then he just blasts the living daylights out of him. Everybody starts running out, and you can just see the guys like Charlie Sheen, especially this part, like, now we have to join in, and then they pretty much have to kill the Murphy guys there. It's like, well, that really didn't go the way we're supposed to do it.
What's funny too is earlier in the movie when they were asking how Billy got where he was, or he's on the run or whatever, he says, did you kill a man? And he just kind of smiles. So I think they send him in there because like he's got the stomach to do it. He's got the stomach to go in there and face to face with these guys, but they did not expect him just to kill him right away. Like, shoot first, ask questions later, for sure.
Yeah, no, and that's what he does in this one here, And I think in the real life version of Billy the Kid, the first person he ever killed there was a dude that was like hassling him at the bar, and he got him like on the ground, and he was like literally like slapping him around like cartoon style, and Billy wasn't taking it anymore, so he pulled out his guns and just unloaded into him. And that was the first guy he ever killed.
Yeah. It was like Joe Pesci and the Shama Shoes guy. So he kills that guy, and then they get a little bit further down the road, and he's already created a mess. And then there's another vagrant that Tunstall picks up, kind of like early in the movie. And they realize this guy's a traitor, and Billy just kills him without consulting the rest of the group. It's just like, yeah, you're done. I'm not going to take your bullshit, because he was going to traitor. He was a traitor. He was a spy.
Yeah. Yeah, and he just blasts the living daylights out of him around the head, too, because that's the one thing is the violence in this one does deliver.
Oh, yeah, no, there's some good violence in this one. And even, like, the gunshot wounds, like, they do survive from are pretty good, too. Mm-hmm. The only exception to the only really bad action moment in this movie is when Charlie Sheen dies.
Oh, when he gets shot in the head.
Yeah, that's one of the worst deaths I've ever seen on film. And that's saying something, because there's been some bad ones, but that one's really, really bad. It's always bothered me.
Yeah. No, that one is kind of a goofy one and whatnot. In real life, that guy was shot in the head, and he was literally buried with the same guy that shot him.
My God. The West was just brutal, man.
Yeah, they're like, we ain't digging two graves.
Yeah, no, we got to save some room here for the rest of this dirt.
So yeah, poor old Dick Brewer gets literally taken out. Like, the weird thing too is like Charlie Sheen's in there, so he's one of the big names in the movies, but he doesn't last. Like, I don't even know if he even lasts halfway through the movie. It feels like it's almost even earlier than that.
I'd say about 40%, maybe.
Yeah.
But like his death is like a good catalyst for the rest of the movie, which is cool that they put it in there. So they turn the intensity up to 11, as you mentioned. They're on the run, and that's when they run into the one bounty hunter who is one of the hardest motherfuckers you'll ever see in any movie ever.
This scene's so good. I love this part. There's literally this old dude who shows up, and I can't remember where the heck they're at, because they're kind of bouncing back and forth between New Mexico and Texas and Mexico and all that kind of stuff. And this old dude just shows up, and he's like pretty much like unloading his stuff, and it's almost like, I can't remember if somebody looks like, hey man, can we help you with something? He's like, oh no, don't worry about it, I'm here for him, he's got a good bounty on his head, but I'll take the rest of you guys in too, because I'm already here anyways, don't worry about it. Just starts pulling guns out, like literally 6-on-1, and this guy's literally 3 times their age, and he's like, I don't care, I'm just gonna take these guys out.
He's like one of the bosses in Sunset Riders.
He 100% is.
Yeah, he just fucking whoops all their asses, and you could tell like when they first walk up to him, like they're all walking up together, and this guy does like a quick, like he's just kind of like sizing them all up and seeing where he's gonna go first. He's like, and he wounds 3 or 4 of them, and then Charlie Sheen, they send him up there to see if he's dead because he kind of faked his death. He made some like gargling sounds in the outhouse, and Charlie Sheen's character Dick goes up to check him out and gets blown away. And by the way, at that point in the movie, there was this whole back and forth between Dick and Billy the Kid, like who's really the leader of this group. Because the newspapers, which were essentially tabloids at the time, and making up all these tall tales of Billy the Kid, they basically have made him the leader of this group, which only inflates Billy's ego even more throughout the whole movie.
Yeah, exactly. And being Charlie Sheen, he's getting a little bit more pissy because of that.
Yeah, it really is a Leonardo, Raphael, Donatello kind of like dynamic between the two of them. But he also acts like Michelangelo, Billy the Kid does, because he's just fucking absurd.
Well, because there's almost the 4 core guys of the Regulators, and then there's the 2, kind of alternative ones, And by those 4 ones, they actually do have a lot of Ninja Turtles personalities in them. If you look at Lou Diamond, literally Kiefer, Emilio, and
Charlie Sheen.
And Charlie Sheen, yeah,
Yeah, it is kind of, they have that whole dynamic, which is one of the things that make this movie good. Why it reminds me of Knight's Tale a little bit, because it's just the dynamic, the camaraderie of it. You know what I mean? You get attached to the characters. I really like films like this that are kind of lighthearted, but is able to do that. But yeah, Charlie Sheen gets blown away. And they all get his blood on his face, which we know is dangerous. So anyway, so they all get wounded a little bit, and basically the rest of the movie is just them, bouncing back and forth on the run, meeting adversities all the way through. They have the peyote scene, which is amazing. Which I think the Eagles did that. The band, the Eagles.
Yeah, they did.
Yeah, and that's how they came up with the name the Eagles. It was just fucking awesome.
Yeah, they had a Chavez guy that showed them the way.
Yeah. Went out to Joshua Tree, I think they said.
Yeah, and, out there in the desert, old Jim Morrison style.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's really, really cool. So basically the whole movie at this point is, Kiefer Sutherland bouncing back and forth between his little China girl coming back, Billy the Kid, his ego growing, kills a guy in a bar because the guy's like, I'm going to kill Billy the Kid. And
that's a great scene right there.
That whole scene. Emilio is great in that scene.
Yeah, and that build up to it is just such a cool one because they're all hanging out at the bar, and I can't remember if this is almost the part where the dudes, Charlie's all like, I want somebody to hold or cuddle with, and then
that's later.
That's later. They're hanging out at bars a lot in this, but he's talking to this dude who literally looks like kind of like a Wild Bill kind of look, and this guy's got a big old mustache and everything. He's like, I'm the man who's gonna go get me Billy the Kid. I'm the one who's gonna bring him on in, and of course Emilio's there. He's like, oh really? That's cool, He's like, you mind if I touch the gun that you're going to kill Billy the Kid with? He's like, sure, here you go, kid. Have at it. Don't shoot yourself and stuff. So he just hands him a loaded gun. No big deal. It's 80. And, when he's looking at it, he's just slowly unloading it and so on like this. And this guy's all distracted. He's got a woman there and everything like that. He's like, well, you better give me that gun back. I might need that, And then Billy's all, well, if I see Billy the Kid, like, what should I look for? He's like, well, if you see him and you want to let me know, he likes to whistle old, cowboy songs, he kind of goes off in this little description, things like that and stuff. And then Billy's kind of there. He's like, oh, okay. And he starts whistling the song real quick. And then he sort of turns and the guy's like, what are you doing? And stuff. He's like, He's like, I see Billy the Kid. I see him. He's right there. He's like, what are you talking about? He's like, he's looking right in the mirror. He's like, and then he finally makes that connection. He's like, oh shit. Oh, wait a second. That is Billy the Kid I've been talking to this whole time. Pulls the gun out, has no ammo in it. Then Billy just blasts the living daylights out of him in the bar. It's so cool. But the build up to it is great. You know, Emilio just chews scenery right there.
It's a really good comedic bit. And what sells it even more is that the rest of the crew don't give a fuck. Like they're not even fazed by it anymore. Like him killing somebody, like Chavez is just sitting there like, you know, whittling away the stick or something, and like Kiefer Sutherland's Doc, he's reading, and he's like, Billy Kid's like, how many does that make that now? He's 25, and Kiefer Sutherland's like 5. Yeah, and they just go back to doing what they're doing. They're so tired of his bullshit at this point. Like, just,
yeah, it's like, nope.
Yeah, it's like, as long as he doesn't kill me, then I guess I'm good with it.
Yeah, well, that's the one thing Billy is, though, is he's that kind of guy who's almost like the definitive, really good friend. You probably don't want to get on his bad side, of course, but like he will do anything for his friends. You know, he almost will go the distance, and he'll inspire them, and he'll do the best he can, you know, for any of those guys.
He's the glue. He's the Paul McCartney. He holds them together, even if they don't want to be held together. Until after Abbey Road, and then, you know, but Emilio's, you know, doing his young gun kind of like talking shit thing, and they're bouncing around the countryside and getting in kind of perilous situations, getting shot at, and they're all getting kind of tired of it and frustrated with it. And then they go down to Mexico for a little bit. And the whole time what they're trying to do is Billy the Kid's angle is, I'm going to cause as much bullshit as I can to get President Hayes' attention and get him to step in and do something about this and look at the situation. Because right now, you know, all the villains, they have all the, you know, local government in their back pocket. They have all the law enforcement, all the, you know, the whole judicial system, the whole economic system kind of like in their back pocket, and they can kind of do whatever they want with impunity. And so he's trying to get President Hayes to pay attention, so maybe they'll correct some of this stuff. But they take a little break and go to Mexico, which is good for Charlie.
Yeah, sure. Charlie finds himself a woman for.
Yeah, he doesn't have to pay prostitutes to cuddle anymore.
No, those days are over.
Yeah, those days are over, which is kind of nice. And Dirty Steve is still dirty as fuck.
Dirty Steve never cleans up.
His character is pretty much a straight line throughout the movie. There's not a lot of development, but you kind of love him for that. Like, he's definitely the dumbest character.
Yeah, the dumbest, the dirtiest, the gnarliest, but like you almost give him credit for, because he stays true to his path.
Yeah, no, his path is whoever's, you know, anywhere but Chavez. Yeah.
That's the one that like he can't seem to figure that one out. He's, you know, it's almost like one of those ones like, it's like, how these guys get along. It's like he's just always giving them some kind of racial insults, you know, about him being Mexican, about him being Native American. That doesn't matter. About him, I think some stuff doesn't even make any logical sense. He's just saying whatever he says.
Yeah, he just says whatever he says. I do like that one scene in the movie. One of my favorite lines of the movie is when I think they're getting to leave Mexico, is I think where they're at, and he goes, "Hey Chavez, it's been a pleasure riding with you." And he goes, "Yes, you are a good friend. Many a nights I slipped out and had a knife up against your throat, and I decided not to kill you, and I'm glad I didn't do that." And Dirty Steve was like, very much back, like the epitome of a backhanded comment. So,
yep.
Yeah. So, but anyway, they it all boils down to they get caught in a really, really epic shootout at the end of the movie, which I remember I had seen that shootout before I actually watched the movie at some point in time, maybe flipping through the channels.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and I saw that, but man, the ending battle, in real life, it took 5 days. They had to kind of like shorten it for the movie, but they were in that house for like 5 days, holed up, you know, waiting to die pretty much.
Well, the weirdest one too is that there's this other character that I don't think we've ever really brought up, but there's this like lawyer character in Lincoln County that's one of their kind of friends who was trying to help him out pretty much after whatever Tunstall passed away and whatnot, and how to make things kind of done legally and so on like that. And they get word that there's trouble up there, and they're like, okay, we got to go visit our lawyer friend. We're leaving Mexico. They even have a part where Charlie's like, but I just got married, and everybody's like, hey, you know what, Charlie? How about you just stay down here and so on like that? That's okay. You got a new wife and everything. We'll go up there and handle it and stuff. And there's even a part too where I think Emilio looks. He's like, Charlie, I want you to stay here. Your wife's crying, and it's just making me more angry. So go, be like, calm her down. But then Charlie's like, nope, I'm going anyways. Forget about this. We're gonna go up there. And I feel kind of bad because they go to that lawyer guy's house. He's like, what are you guys doing here and everything? He's like, oh, we heard you were in trouble and everything like that. And then of course the Murphy gang starts showing up to this guy's house, and they're like, here, take a gun. He's like, I am not taking a gun. If I hold a gun, I will never get my life insurance policy, you know. And so he's held up in his own house. You know, the whole Regulators are out there blasting away at Murphy and all his gang and all his posse and sheriffs and all kinds of stuff. And it is just like epic shootout, and the thing's like feels like it's like 20 minutes long. It's badass, you know. And the cool thing is it literally did happen in real life, pretty darn similar to this, just the longer version, you know.
Yeah. Well, real quick, the movie suggests this was a setup by Pat Garrett. Pat Garrett comes to Billy the Kid as a friend, and he's full of shit.
Yes.
And he basically leads the whole group there so they could just kind of end the war in one fell swoop. But you know, that last ending scene is really intense. Like when they're like unloading on that house, like you could feel the anxiety in there because it's just like everything's exploding. Everything's just like, can you imagine how stressful that would be? Like you're trapped in this house and people are just shooting at you until you die. Like that's the fucking worst, man.
Just shooting. And then Pat Garrett, we kind of forgot to mention him too, but he shows up in a couple of scenes and so on, played by John Wayne's son, you know, which is kind of cool.
Yeah, I didn't even know that.
Yeah. So Pat Garrett, you know, being kind of a big character for the Billy the Kid like legacy stuff, but kind of setting up because, you know, the whole thing is that like, hey Billy, you can go and do your own thing, but if you keep coming back, you know, I'm going to become sheriff of this area, you know, or whatever he becomes, U.S. Marshal, whatever, and you know, I'll take you down. And so that's kind of where the whole setup part seems like it's going here. But the Murphy gang's really just trying to get rid of the Regulators for sure. They call in the cavalry as well too. So the Union Army comes on in and brings all their pretty much like the old school National Guard. That's the best way to sort of say it. You know, comes in to help out too. So now not only do you have a bunch of, you know, the whole Murphy posse shooting at you, now you got literally the army here too. They decide to light the house on fire and whatnot, and in the process there's a part where even Charlie has a freak out moment where he's just like, I don't know, man, I got a wife, I can't do this. And Billy's like, dude, Chavez, you can do this, you can take him down, come on, let's get pumped up, yeah. And he goes like, yeah, and he just starts loading that gun and just starts blasting it, and he just gets him like Billy the Kid just gets him so amped up.
Yeah, Billy the Kid's good at manipulating people, even his friends in this movie. Because Chavez tried to leave, and he's like, "No, man, don't go. You're with your family now. You're going to break our circle. You're going to break our hoop of life, or whatever he calls it."
Yeah. After he gives that whole monologue about the hoop of life and how I lost, like, dude, you got a new hoop right here. I don't know what you guys complain about.
Yeah. It's the one person who seems kind of immune to his bullshit is Doc, Kiefer Sutherland's character. Pretty much knows what he's all about, but he's like, you know, lesser of two evils kind of situation.
Yeah, and even in this shootout, you know, Doc's been, you know, following around Jack Palance's pretty much slave Chinese girl that, like, it's the weird way. He's like, yeah, like this. I went to a laundromat. They've jacked up my shirt, so I was like, give me your daughter. That's what I'll take for payment.
They don't call it the Wild West for nothing. Oh my God.
Yeah, literally, like somebody stained. You messed up his favorite shirt. Nope, I'm taking your daughter and stuff like that. But she finally figures this out, and she finds a way out and literally runs in the house of bullets.
Yeah, she's like, this is a better place for me to go. Yeah, like I just pictured dinner that night, and they're like, "Oh, where's Yun Su?" And they're like, "Oh, we traded her for a T-shirt." She must be like the Meg of the family. It's so funny. They didn't care. Oh man, but yeah. So yeah, she runs into the house to be with Kiefer Sutherland. That's your kind of like love story element of this movie, which is just as a weird, creepy kind of love story. Because where Kiefer Sutherland is just basically, imposing himself onto this lady and really endangering her life because, you know what I mean? And she's kind of like, yeah, okay, she's a slave, but when you really think about it at that time, is that like the worst thing to be at that point in time? Like, for a girl?
I mean, you hate to sort of say it, but like, you're a slave in a rich house,
Yeah, I mean, like she might be free use, but she's got a pretty good life. Like she's well fed and everything. In comparison to other social norms for women at that time, it's not that bad.
I think in real life that character actually went with Doc and they got married and lived together till like the 1930s almost.
Sweet little love story right there. A stalker?
Yeah. So she decides that the flaming house filled with all the the lead bullets coming in is that's better though. You know what? At the end of the day, that's it.
Yeah. So in real life, real quick, is that where Billy the Kid died? Supposedly,
no
shootout.
Even though. Because it's weird, because it's like you at the end of Young Guns, because nobody really knows exactly, and they make it out because Pat Garrett is the one who finally kills Billy the Kid.
Yeah, so played by William Peterson in the second one.
Yeah, so pretty much like, even though this gets into the second one, but the second one introduces that story along with the whole legend that Billy the Kid never did, or not never died, like a vampire or something like that, but like literally lived till like his 80s or whatnot, and was just literally in hiding ever since then. And so like you thought that Pat Garrett was the one that took him down, but no, that's not the case.
Yeah, it's What I wonder, how did he get out of that situation in real life then?
Well, they literally all like kind of rode out of that thing, like strangely enough, because even in the movie, it's like you get this part where Billy's got this idea, the house is on fire. They're like, we got to go, and he's like, put me in this chest and chuck me out the window. And when you watch that scene in the movie and you see this chest just bounce off the roof, fall on the ground, and when you think about it, be like, just imagine being in there, like how painful that probably was. And then I also think the other one is like, what happens if that chest lands upside down?
Lands upside down,
pop out.
Or if you just can't pop out. It's a dumb thing. It's dumb. Like it honestly stresses me out thinking about it. But they don't show you in the movie what he's gonna do. It just kind of happens. And so like you don't have time to really think about it, but later on you're like, that didn't happen because there's no way.
Like
shit.
Yeah, it looks so painful just watching that chest roll off the house and bounce on the ground. But whatever, it makes for actually a cool part because then Billy busts open out of there, two guns ablaze in slow motion. Boom, 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 boom. Everybody comes running out and so on like that. And that's literally what they did in real life, is they literally just kind of came running out and just went for it. And strangely enough, all the core characters, Doc, Chavez, and Billy the Kid, all made it out of there, with just minor wounds and so on like that. The one I feel so bad for, though, is like in this movie, okay, they send out the lawyer dude's wife early on. She gets out there, whatever. She slaps, the colonel or whatever in charge of the Union Army. And then later, okay, so everybody's left. We're done with pretty much our action scene and whatnot like that. Billy the Kid escapes. All the regulators do. Well, two of them end up getting killed there. Whatever. Steve, and does Charlie get killed there too? I can't remember.
Well, I don't know if is he in the second one?
I don't think so, because the second one I want to say just has the three, and then Christian Slater's the new young gun.
Mm-hmm.
But what I was getting at is the guy that I feel most bad for is the lawyer dude who's been stuck in his own house, not shooting a single bullet himself, you know what I mean? Just kind of holding down the fort. He finally goes to leave, and then it's like, the army's like, okay, we finally got this Gatling gun set up, and I know everybody just left, but God forbid I don't get to shoot this thing, and just unloads his Gatling gun, and just blasts that lawyer guy as he's running out in slow motion. So it goes to show, if you're in a situation where there's guns, grab a gun. They're not going to care that you didn't touch a gun. That is not what they're going to care one bit.
Yeah. Yeah, it's not. Yeah, they're not gonna even. They're gonna just assume you did. So it's just like, I know how insurance works. Yeah,
yeah. Believe me, I bet you she never got that life insurance. They're probably like, yeah, I saw him. He was holding guns left and right. He died of a gun. Look at him. He's got 2 guns in his hand right there. It's like, you just placed those there. No, I didn't.
No, they were there the whole time. Yeah, the shootout's really, really cool. It is a little long, but man, it is really, really cool at the end there.
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm excited to watch part 2 because it gets juicier. It gets so much juicier.
Well, the thing is that when Young Guns, it's like Young Guns 1 is really fun and it's great and it sets everything up, and it's like, 2 doesn't become as amazing without Young Guns 1. But like, I feel like when you get the Young Guns 2, like, it feels like everything starts to get way more like, oh, shit's getting real here. There's some dire straits going down and whatnot. Like, what's going to happen here? And then you throw in that legend story of Billy the Kid and all that stuff. I just feel like it adds so much more to it, and it's just kind of packed into being like, it feels like it's a 2. Almost feels like it could have been a straight to video like sequel, but it's not. It's like they really put a lot into that second one.
Yeah, well, more really, because this one was a hit. So now now you got Bon Jovi involved and all this kind of stuff. It's definitely meant to be a bigger movie.
Yeah, but it's weird because it's like, I think maybe at the time, but in the long run, like Warner Brothers has always kind of treated that like, oh yeah, there's also a sequel if you want, They treat it like it's like Dirty Harry 5 or something like that. Well, I mean, if you're going to get the whole collection, I guess you can get it, but it's not our main one we're trying to sell to you.
Yeah, no, we'll talk about the debate between which one's better next week too, but it's definitely close. I can tell you that. It's a good debate, but anyway, Young Guns. If you've never seen it, what are you doing? I think it's on Amazon right now, actually.
Yeah, I'm gonna be really bummed if it was, and I watched it on my my DVD copy, but whatever.
Yeah, maybe I'm just wrong on that, but I'll double check real fast, because if you've never seen Young Guns, you need to go watch it.
Yeah, it's one of those ones, like, it's a good gateway Western, I will say, too. Like, it's that thing that if you never really been into Westerns before, but you kind of want one that was easy enough to get into, I think Young Guns is actually a pretty smooth entry point. It does set the bar kind of high, so you got to keep that in mind. But I think it's one of those ones where you can't really go wrong. I feel like it's easy, because sometimes some Westerns, they're almost so Western-y that, like, unless you're into that kind of aesthetic, you might be put off a little bit by it, Yeah.
Yeah, no, I like this one. I like this one a lot. And it's its own thing. It's very, very unique. So, and it is, you can watch it free on Amazon. So with like the commercials and stuff, but it's on there.
Oh, okay. So it was kind of, I must have not. I could have swore I looked it up when we were doing it. I was like, nope, it's not on Amazon. I'm like, I'll go pull my DVD out. No worries.
Which we honestly should have just watched it on VHS, because that's
yeah, we both had it right there, yeah, that would have been the way to go.
Yeah, but anyway, thank y'all for listening to another episode of Via VHS. Obviously next week, Young Guns 2. So if you like Young Guns 1 and you like what we had to say about it, come back next week. We're going to talk about the second one, which I haven't seen. I can't remember it as well. I remember the ending, and I remember the beginning. But I really don't remember most of the movie, so I'm excited to revisit it.
Yeah, same here. It's been such a while that all I can remember is that I always think of it as the superior of the 2 movies, but it's been so long that, as I said, it's probably been literally since I did the Old Man Orange podcast when we did Young Guns 1 and 2. That was probably the last time I watched it. So, in 7 or 8 years, that can sometimes be a little too much.
Well, there you go. This is a fun movie, exciting movie, a lot of youthful energy. Has a pop culture element of the time, the late '80s with the Brat Pack stuff. It's a good one to watch, and there's not a whole lot of '80s westerns, and this one's very '80s. Has the montages in it. It's like a music video sometimes. I could have used even like a song. If they would have thrown a song in here, oh my god, I'd have been ready to go.
That's what the sequel. The sequel, like
again from Aerosmith.
Oh God, yeah, you could have done that. Well, I know because Emilio Estevez really wanted Bon Jovi to use. Oh Jesus,
Cowboy.
Wanted Dead or Alive.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and then Bon Jovi was like, well, that's kind of like a motorcycle song. I know it says it in there. And I know it fits the vibe, but the lyrics are, about riding a motorcycle.
Yeah. Well, he makes it up for it in the second one. But, yeah. Young Guns, go watch it if you've never seen it. As always, you look at the link tree down below. You can find all the places that I'm at on X and all the social media places. You can find oldmanorange.com and all the places that Spencer is. But thank y'all for listening. Hope you enjoyed Young Guns if you watched it along with us. Stay tuned for more Young Guns. Next week we got Young Guns 2, and I think we're just as excited about that. So anyway, thank y'all for listening. Y'all have a good one, and Via VHS is out.